Yeah, I'll just cook later.
Why is there the cameras on Sunday?
I don't want to. Actually, could.
Just rotate it. 야, 컴퓨터 보면 편집하면 되나, 저것도? 저것도 베이직 편집하면 돼. 베이직. Again? Yeah. After finishing everything and you have to just come off the music. Whatever the... Yeah. 근데 how about the... Just plug out?
No, it's close the lens and then turn off.
Yeah, turn off. And do we give this to Pastor Kim?
No, it's just leave
it. Okay. And this thing?
leave it there.
Leave it there too? Okay.
We could put this one in the bag.
Yeah, that's right. Right here.
I put it there.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Later, if you wanna, do something else, like putting PowerPoint, I'm showing PowerPoint, then maybe you can use this one. But it has, you can use this. This is HDMI. So yeah, when you wanna show PowerPoint or like substitute or some words during service, then it's better to have additional monitor. So that's why we have this here. Then you can use actually other software, like OBS Studio or something like that. I'm gonna post in the Cornerstone. Wait, where did I post the last one?
On Facebook?
Oh, because we have one that's like...
You put in the private group, not the main group.
Yeah. Oh, wait, what the hell? Did I not post?
Wait, I thought I got a notification that you posted somewhere first. Yeah. Straight away.
Where's that? This one, right?
Oh, yeah, it's the wrong one. Just post them. It's okay. I mean, you put someone, you get the notification.
Could be notified, yeah.
Only 3 people like doing it, so sense of engagement. Hello. What's up?
Do you guys feel comfortable with the temperature?
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Recognize I set to 74.
Oh, no,
So if
perfect.
it's too hot,
Perfect.
you can just
Thank you.
notch down.
Yeah.
Put the notches.
Here's Eddie Cam.
Say hi. It's zoomed in though, so you have to go like closer there. Let's go more this way. No. Right there, yeah, right there. Look like a little boy. Hey, we got 12 people watching.
Anybody donate money to me?
I don't think that's how this works.
Oh. Donate money to the stream. One
donos.
lucky person will be blessed today. Get your blessings right now. Donate $1.
Can you imagine Fester came in the middle? Thank you, chat.
Chat, can I get an amen? Put those amens in the chat.
So I bet some of those like mega churches do that.
No, they do.
It's so funny.
They're like, everyone, tell me where you guys from.
Arizona. Oh, they can hear us.
Everybody put down where you guys are right now. Let's get some engagement up in this chat. It's a good... All right, Yansik.
Other people. SoCal. Oh, Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
It's like 11 a.m. over there.
I feel like we're like Twitch streaming or responding to the chat.
I would love to become a streamer.
Well, ask us some questions.
Let's go, chat.
Let's go, chat. Let's get some engagement up on the Sunday morning. Oh, what a blessing it is, dude.
We'll play Fall Guys next week.
Everyone is saying Purdue.
Adrian's room.
All right, Ryan, get out of my room.
Oh, we should make custom emotes.
Oh.
Oh no.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good.
On my way,
sermon.
Ryan. Pepe hands.
What?
Pepe hand. I think it's like this one.
Oh, he literally needs it.
I'll see you soon.
All right.
The hardest thing so far going online.
Hardest thing.
Online part.
Both of you are sitting in the back, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adrian will sit in the
I'm
front.
gonna move here.
Put the camera right there. You can sit back here and just hang out with me. How's your summer been, Pastor Kim?
Oh, kind of
Busy?
hectic.
Hectic?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of peaceful but hectic.
Mm.
All this new.
Yeah.
How's yours?
Hectic and peaceful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Too?
Yeah.
You're in Chicago.
Mhm.
You're in Chicago too?
I was in Texas.
Oh,
Yeah.
What city?
Dallas.
Dallas. Oh, yeah.
I hate Dallas.
Were there riots there?
I wasn't close enough, but I heard about it.
Oh,
It's kind of scary.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really scary.
It's, I don't know.
I saw, what's the place in Wisconsin? Shares. What's the place?
Wisconsin?
Huh?
What?
Yeah,
It's in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, that riot place.
Oh, Kenosha?
Kenosha.
Yeah,
Kenosha.
yeah, I know.
It was bad.
Yeah, I saw one video. It's crazy.
Mhm.
The guy with the shot.
Or not.
You good?
메시지를 전하는데요. 좀 어려워서 소리가 좀 재밌습니다. When we begin,
You can start now.
right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everybody. You see me? It's been a while since we met on Sunday. We're right now have Rebecca and Adrian and Tiffany in our main sanctuary. So I'm not able to see anybody. They're all sitting in the back. So it's really strange and unusual experience. Maybe next Sunday I'll go to them. But we'll see. So I hope everybody is back safe and good. It's been a very hectic summer because of virus. Things have been so different. It was kind of we stayed home first few weeks, so it was more easygoing, but yet it was hectic because of all the news, riots going on in different cities. So the world is very busy and so we're going to read today from Isaiah chapter 37 to from verse 14 to 20. So, so should we read responsibly, Adrian? Rebecca? Should we still do that? Okay. So I'll read verse 14 and you guys read 15 to 20. Okay. Isaiah 37:14. And Hezekiah received a letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. 15.
And Hezekiah prayed to the Lord.
O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, the one who dwells between the cherubim, you are God. You are Lord of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth.
Give ear, Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, Lord, and see. Listen to all the words
Sennacherib has
sent to ridicule the living God.
Truly, Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste all the nations and their lands.
They have thrown their gods into the fire and destroyed them, for they were not gods, but only wood and stone, fashioned by human hands.
Verse 20, let's read together.
Now, Lord our God,
Our God,
deliver us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you, Lord, are the only God.
Yeah, I was kind of very concerned because we have read something from Isaiah, and Isaiah, there appears very few names that you may not be familiar with. So I want to introduce to you a few names. First is Hezekiah. Hezekiah, I'm sure you heard of his name. He was a king in Judah. And what we read today, just now, is Hezekiah's prayer. And then there's a person's name, his name is Sennacherib. Sennacherib, he's a king of Assyria. And so, to give you your background, Assyria at that time was the most powerful nation in the world. Most powerful. They are very cruel. You heard of ISIS maybe a few years ago? You know, some say that ISIS were descendants of Assyria. So ISIS are very cruel. And Assyria is very powerful, very cruel, very deceitful. And their king was at that time Sennacherib. And so, yeah, I don't want to burden you with so many difficult names, so I'm trying to explain who they are, just name few characters. So there's Hezekiah, Sennacherib, and then there's Rabshakeh. Rabshakeh is a general, or the person right below king of Syria. And so that name appears. So basically there are three of them. And then there's a place called Akish. That's a place name. And so the time, and that time is, you can see in 36 verse 1, it says in the 14th year of King Hezekiah. So 14th year, Hezekiah became a king in 760 BC. So subtract 14, better we need to do 702, right? 702 BC. So just to give you a rough idea of when this occurred. Okay? And so right now, the situation is this, that Assyria and the king have invaded, is invading Judah. And Jerusalem is the capital of Judah. And right now, king of Judah and king of Assyria is in Lachish. So Lachish is 25 miles or so southwest of Jerusalem. So 25 miles. You know how far 25 miles is. And I looked up in the Google, and in Google, it would take a person from Jerusalem to Lachish about 1 hour, a little more than an hour. So in this area, it will be like from here to little more than twice to Lafayette. And so I'm trying to give you an idea of how close they are. See? So I'm trying to tell you the situation. Hezekiah, the king of Judah, is in Jerusalem, and Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and his army are about 25 miles away. You know, they have invaded Judah and conquered most of the major cities in Judah. And the background is just a little before this event, this time, Judah had gone to ask Egypt, asking them to save them from Assyrians. And so they are, think about this, what would you do if you're being invaded by a powerful country? Think about that, you know? You don't have to know all these names or history too well, but you know, we want to apply this in our lives. Think about this. You know, your country is being invaded, and you're the king. And so, what would you do in such a case? So, of course, one smart thing to do is go to another nation that's equally powerful than you. And so, that's what Hezekiah and his officials did. So they went to Egypt, asking them to save them. And so, but God through Isaiah told them, don't do that. They don't trust Egypt. But King Hezekiah didn't know what else to do. And so he sent his men to Egypt. It was a far distance. They went, and then Egypt required them to give them money, which is gold and silver. And so they gave them. They, in return, promised them, made a treaty, saying, you know, if someone attacks you, which is Assyria, will protect you, will defend you. But God said, don't be foolish. Egyptians, they can't even protect themselves. And so that is what happens. So, you know, this event right now, a little before this time, Egypt has been attacked by Assyrians. Assyrians had a big defeat over Egyptians. And then Assyrians finally, you know, came close to Jerusalem. So what did Hezekiah do? Hezekiah sent a letter to the king of Assyria saying, I'm really sorry. Please don't attack us. And he asked him, what should we do to make you not attack us? And they said, give us so much, 300 talents of silver and some gold, and then we will not attack you. And so Hezekiah went back to his home and went to a temple and got all the silvers and gold and also from his palace and gave them to Sennacherib. What did Sennacherib do? He got it, but that didn't stop him. That's how deceitful Assyrians were. And so Assyrians just kept coming. They said through Rabshakeh, do not rebel or surrender, otherwise we'll attack you. And then chapter 36, Rabshakeh was sent by the king of Assyria and said to Hezekiah and his men, "What do you trust?" Rabshakeh is a general. He's very, very smart man, and he's very convincing in what he says. And what he says is this: he says, "Judeans, what are you trusting?" And he was saying, I will make you realize that you're trusting on something that doesn't help you, will not help you. He says, well, he went through several things. He says, are you saying you're trusting Egypt? And he says, you're trusting staff of this broken reed, Egypt, on which if a man leans, it will go into this hand and pierce it. And so what he said was true. Egyptians are not strong. You're trusting something that will fall. Even Isaiah agreed with that. When we look at Isaiah chapter 20, God said to Isaiah, for the next 3 years, you go everywhere, you live without clothes on. And that means nothing on, but outer robe on. So I only had inner clothing, and live without sandals on your feet. And the reason God told him to do that was to show the people of Judah that that's what will happen to Egyptians. Egyptians will be overpowered by Assyrians. They will be defeated, and they will be taken as prisoners. They will not even have robes to wear. They will be taken naked and barefoot. But even hearing that through Isaiah, people of Judah still chose to trust Egypt. The next thing that Rabshakeh pointed to was in verse 7 of chapter 36. He says, if you say we trust in the Lord our God, wasn't it Hezekiah who got rid of high places? High places is where higher land where they worship gods, And so this Rabshakeh, I think, had a wrong understanding. But really, God asked kings to get rid of high places at this time. So that's what Hezekiah did. But Rabshakeh thought that, that was not the right thing to do. So he was actually saying, don't trust your God, because Hezekiah did something to displease him. And then the third thing he pointed to was that, do not trust in your military strength. When it comes to security of a nation, what do you trust in? Of course, military strength, men and weapons. And in their time, weapons would be fighting men and horses and other weapons. But Rabshakeh said, if we give you 2,000 horses, I don't think you could find 2,000 men to ride on them. So what does that mean? He's saying that you won't have enough men to fight us. They will not have courage to fight us. And then last thing that he pointed to was that it was in fact God who sent us, your God who sent us to destroy your nation. So was that true? Partially true, because in the Bible, Isaiah said Assyria is used as a stick to punish Israel. So partially it was true, but God wouldn't let them conquer entirely Jerusalem. So here are all these very persuasive reasons not to resist Assyrians. And if you and I were there, I think most people would give in. So we want to apply that in our lives. And also, he says, look at what happened to your brother country, Israel. They've they've been overpowered. About 11 years ago, 11 years before this event, they were occupied, they were just destroyed. So that was really true, you know. And Rav Sheka said their gods were able to protect them. So, when they heard this, they were really discouraged, right? You can imagine, when you hear something like this, I think you and I will probably be very discouraged. There's no way to escape, nowhere to go. We've done everything that we could to prevent this, and there was nothing they could do. The smart thing for them to do, it seems like, is to surrender, right? And what did these men do? The men of Hezekiah, Elikim, Shebna, and Joah, they said, please, Rav Sheka, we understand Aramaic. Please don't speak in Hebrew, because Hebrew was a language of everyday people. They were concerned that people were hearing, what Rav Sheka was saying. But Rav Sheka says, we're not sent only to speak to you, but to speak to everybody. He wanted to discourage all the people of the land. And he said, if you do not surrender, then you and your people will end up eating and drinking your own waste. Isn't that a horrible thing? It's a horrible and very scary thing to hear. Right? And that, really, is it okay? Oh, okay. So this is what will happen if you do not surrender. But if you surrender to us, then each of you will be able to live in a peaceful place, eating from your own vine and from your fig tree and your own well, the water can drink. And so he just said, look at other nations. No nation was able to resist us. So they were very deceitful. They were smart, very cruel. They were very smart. And so when someone hears something like this, they'll be very discouraged. And so, at that time, I think if you do not heed their voice, you'll be like committing suicide. That's what it looked like. Judah, it wasn't a very powerful nation compared to Assyria. It was nothing. Israel was destroyed. Tyre was destroyed. Syria was occupied. So what was Hezekiah to do? He tried everything. He tried to get help from the Egyptians, but that didn't work. Tried to appease Assyrians, and that didn't work. Gave them tribute, money, and they received it, but kept going. What could they do? They also got fast horses so that they could run away, if they come and attack them. But what did God say to that? Isaiah chapter 30, verse 16, it says, no, for we will flee on horses. Therefore you shall flee, and we will ride on swift horses. Therefore those who pursue you shall be swift. 1,000 shall flee at the threat of one. At the threat of 5 you shall flee. When God's not working, that's what happens. You hear a bad report, scary news, and people just flee, And what happens is, even though you prepared with swift, fast horses, enemy, God says, will be faster than you. Enemy's horses. And so, very scared, Hezekiah and his men, just discouraged, completely lost all will and energy. And then Hezekiah talked to Isaiah, and Isaiah says, God heard your prayer, you'll be okay. And that happened when Hezekiah, chapter 37, verse 1. Verse 1, what did Hezekiah do? So when he heard those reports, he tore his clothes, covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of the Lord. So I want to get to this now. Hezekiah was a good king, you know, and he did everything he could, try to get help from Egypt and appease Syria, prepare military might, and try to encourage his people, say to them, be strong and be courageous. Do not be afraid or be dismayed before the king of Assyria, for there are more with us than with him. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us fight our battles. And so people were strengthened, I suppose. But now, all those things didn't work. So what did he do? Verse 1, Hezekiah, when he heard it, he tore his clothes, covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of the Lord. I'm sure that he had gone to temple before, temple of God. But this was real emergency, real crisis. Before then, he would say, we trust God. But, we see that he depended on Egypt and he trusted his military strength, tried to appease Assyrians, and they tried to stop water coming toward Jerusalem. But all this wasn't enough. He was now, in real crossroads. And what he does next was going to determine his family and himself and his people's destiny, whether they will live or die. But now, he had nothing he could really do. And so we see here something really precious. And that is that when he could do nothing, then he comes as a child of God, child to God. He goes into temple. So he tore his clothes. What does that mean? That means like it's like crisis, it's sadness, where a person doesn't know what to do, and that's when he comes to God. And he says in chapter 37, verse 3, he says, "This day is a day of trouble and rebuke and blasphemy, for the children have come to birth, but there is no strength to bring them forth." So women who have given birth would understand this maybe more than men, but this is how he felt. He goes into the temple and he goes, this is trouble now, and he goes, it's like children are coming, but there's no strength to give them birth to them. In order to give birth, a woman needs a lot of strength and willpower. Right? You need patience. You need to go to the end. But then, it's like you need to give birth, but you have no power, no strength at all. So that's how he felt like the situation that he was in. There was no way out. Got to the dead end, no way to escape. And so we see this truth that as long as Hezekiah was able to try to do something on his own, God wasn't able to do much. Do you know that? That's what we want to what I want to point out from today's passage, and that is this is the way to have a winning life. We want to live a winning life, victorious life. We want to live a life where God is working, And so as long as we do all things in our own strength, God is going to work in your life or my life. But when Hezekiah tried everything, he didn't have to try everything to come to realize this, but he did. He said, I trust God, but he really tried everything. Egypt, all these things, But he realized that none of them worked. And so he comes to God, just tearing his clothes And he says, I have no strength. I can't do anything now. That's what he said to God. And so that's when God comes to help him, really. And verse 6 of chapter 37, it says, God says to Isaiah, do not be afraid of the words which you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. And then God says to Isaiah, I'm going to send him back to his country where he will be killed. And so that's what really happens. But in the meantime, in verse 8, we see King of Assyria sends another threatening letter telling him to surrender. And so, it's very fearful letter again. And Hezekiah, what does he do? And that's when the passage that we read says, Hezekiah received the letter, and then Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. Then Hezekiah prayed to the Lord. So this is what Hezekiah did. He got a letter, which is not a paper, probably a small scroll, and that's the letter from Sennacherib, king of Assyria. And just listen to this. Hezekiah prayed to the Lord, O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, the one who dwells between the cherubim, you are God. You alone of all the kingdoms of the earth, you have made heaven and earth. But I'm sorry, one thing I skipped. That's 14. And when he got the letter, Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. He spread it before the Lord. Well, I want to point you to that. He got the scroll letter and spread it before the Lord. What does that mean? I think it's like a childlike faith or child coming before his God. And, it says, this is the letter I got from our enemy. What shall I do? I don't know what to do. I've done all I can. Now God read it himself. He did it not, not out of bad matter, but he out of desperation, spread it out before God, in his temple. Please, God, just read this. And then he says, verse 17, incline your ear, Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, Lord, and see, and hear all the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to reproach the living God. So, verse 17 again, he says, incline your ear, open your ears, God, and open your eyes. That's very easy words, easy language, right? I think when a person is really desperate, when a person really means what it says, usually I think it's very simple, easy words. Usually. So I see the spirit of this prayer, when he brings the letter, and spreads it before God. God, you read it. Open your ears, open your eyes, look at this. This offering prayer out of desperation, but he's really trusting God now. He could trust God entirely because, he come to the end of himself. What I mean by that it was that he tried everything he could. He knows what to do. He did all of those things, but it didn't work. That's when he comes to God and says, I don't know what else I can do. And then he appeals to the fact that Sennacherib blasphemed his God. And so he says, other gods, it was in other nations, they were defeated, they were occupied, those are really fact. He didn't deny the reality of the situation. It was really dangerous time if it was a crisis. It's a life or death situation. And it was true that other nations fell. All the nations fell. But one difference is that their gods were not really real gods. They were just things made out of wood or stone. Our God is the only creator who made heaven and earth. And so he just utterly dependent on his God as he comes to God. And what happens? God hears his prayer. And chapter 37, 36 says, Then the angel of the Lord went out and killed in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when people arose early in the morning, there were the corpses, all dead. So how many died? 185,000 people died. How did that happen? We don't really know how that happened. But one historian recorded that on that night, a lot of rats went into Assyrian army's base and then ate up all the weapons. We don't know whether that's true or not. What is important is that God did it, answered Hezekiah's prayer. And so when that happened, 185,000 all died. And so then Assyria, king of Assyria, when he saw that, he got depressed. He was embarrassed. So he went back to his own country. And when he went back to his country, and then he went to his god, Nisroch's temple, and he was worshiping his god, and his two sons came and killed him. And what God had said would happen, happened. So he got killed. So when he offended God and blasphemed God, God didn't let him alone. So through this story, this event, I want to come to a little application for our lives, and that is, we want to live a victorious life. We want God to intervene when we need Him, always. But unless we give things over to Him, He would not work. It's just like Hezekiah. Hezekiah tried everything. He didn't have to try them all, but we can understand him. I think if you and I were in his place, we probably would have done the same thing. Who would do that? That seems so foolish. But in order for him to get God involved and do the works, he should have given up trusting in Egypt, Assyrians, money, and military strength. It doesn't mean that you don't do some of them, but God said, do not trust them. When we trust other things, then God doesn't work. We need to only trust Him. And so, some may say, the Bible only speaks about only crisis times when your life is in line. It seems that way, but it doesn't have to be that those situations. But in our everyday, ordinary lives, when there are things that's beyond us, I think we could apply this in our lives too. There are times when we can't just do it. Aren't there times when you feel helpless? I can't do what I need to do. That's when you go to God. Obvious simple things. Things that we can do. We shouldn't ask God too much. Like let's say going to church. It doesn't require a miracle. You just do it. That's the right thing to do. But there are many things in our lives where we come to the point where it's we don't know what to do. You can't do anything. That's when you come to God. Every time you come into a situation where it seems impossible, that's when you come to God and give it over to God. You have worries, problems, something that brings you fear. Just give it over to God. There's things that you cannot do anything. And the Bible says that when you do it, you will not be embarrassed. Isaiah 49:23 says, Then you will know that I'm the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed who wait on me. Psalms 2:12 says, Blessed are all those who put their trust in Him. And so Isaiah said, You will not be ashamed of me when you wait on me. Waiting means trust in me. Psalm says that those who put their trust in Him will be blessed. Blessed. That's God's promise. So, this is not something that just happens once or twice in your lifetime. It happens a lot with me and with you. And so, learn to trust Him. especially in time of crisis like virus, even our lives are seems to be threatened, and that's especially time when we trust our lives and give it over to Him. Not only my life, but my family's life, give it over to Him. Maybe you are concerned about safety of your goods, even that, there's not much you can do. You give them over to God. Your brothers or sisters, same thing. Or if your parents, your children are somewhere far away, you trust God for their lives. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for getting back to our Cornerstone worship. We thank you even during crisis and troubles and difficulties in our lives that you protected us and watched over us. We thank you for this message, telling us to trust only in you. And those who trust in you will not be ashamed or embarrassed, but will be called blessed. Help us to live a life that is blessed in your eyes. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Rebecca will come.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining in to our first live stream. Sorry about the sound difficulties. We'll be working on it as we get used to the system. So some announcements. Meet the Small Groups will be this Friday on Zoom. This will be your opportunity to get to know our small group leaders and how they'll run their Bible studies and their personalities, so please come out. We'll be updating on our socials throughout, so please get connected to those if you haven't already. We'll be sending out a video of like the small group leaders kind of introducing stuff, kind of like a prequel kind of thing early this week. So I guess look forward to that. And if you're new, we're glad to see you. And if you're old, we're also glad to see you. Those are all the announcements, I believe. So join me as we end with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
So everybody